Welcome. In front of me is a Samsung Galaxy S21, and today I'll show you a couple tweaks and tricks you can do on this new device. Now, starting off, we're going to begin with the adaptive refresh rate, and this is for the people that, well, let's just say don't really see a difference between one and the other, and this will just simply allow you to save a little bit of a battery, actually. So now this is most certainly not for the people that would want to have the refresh rate high. So if we go into the display, and then, where is it? There we go, motion and smoothness, that's how it's called here. So by default, we have a adaptive refresh rate here, which means that if you're looking at a content that doesn't really require any kind of movement, it will drop, I believe, as low as 40 frames. But if you, for instance, scrolling up and down like here, it's going to go up to 120, making the scrolling motion really smooth and nice. Now, if you don't actually see a difference between the typical 60 Hz and 120, then probably you're better off turning this off. Now, if you turn it off, now on the camera it won't be really visible, but it will look a little bit, it should look a little bit crappier. This is still 120, I believe. So, oh yeah, it didn't actually change. I need to apply. That will make sense. So yeah, now it's looking way worse, and I believe it might be visible on the camera and like the choppiness, but the actual feeling that that is there is going to be actually hard to represent, because camera records only at 60 frames, and even if I set it up to be 120 like it is right now, camera will not display that actual smoothness. The only thing you will see is just the way once it moves, it on the camera looks more blurry, as a constant weird blur almost, when the text just progresses instead of being like in several places at the same time. I'm not really sure how to explain it differently, but in any other way, you can actually look at these animations right here, and they should represent it quite well, and the difference wise what it makes it. So going back to what I was gonna show you or tell you, if you don't really see a difference when you disable this, then you can drop it down and be basically at 60 and gain additional battery life out of this, or you can also disable it if you prioritize battery over smoothness as well. But like I said, 120 is really nice anyway. It looks really smooth, and the device does do a little bit of trickery to make you save as much battery as it can when it's in adaptive. So when it doesn't need to refresh the display so often, because for instance, if you're looking at a picture, what's the point? It's a stationary object, then it will drop it down to below even 60, but then when it needs to, it will crank it up. Now anyway, moving on to the next one, it's going to be the dark mode, and it's simply accessible through, disregard this, through basically notification panel right here. Once you tap on it, it turns everything into dark mode. Now this will include things like basically majority of the default apps, as you can see. Well, camera doesn't really count here. Web browser and stuff like that will all be basically in the same boat of being affected, even settings. Flashlight settings, there we go. As you can see, it's all in dark mode. Now the benefit of this dark mode here is the phone here actually has an AMOLED display, so each pixel is self-lit, meaning that if it's completely black, it doesn't need to light up, meaning also that will save you battery. Now I'll mention that the battery that it will save is mediocre at best, so don't expect to get hours worth of battery extra with this. It won't really increase it that much, but it's there, so I just wanted to mention it because I felt it might be worth mentioning anyway. Now, moving on to the next option once I disable dark mode, because I believe on camera it looks better in light. Let's just crank it up. Moving on to the next one, it's gonna be the easy mode, and this is specifically for the people that prefer to have their device easier to use and designed more for the elderly people. So let's go into the settings and then display, and in here you will find somewhere, there we go, easy mode. And as you can see, once you enable this, There we go. It becomes super huge everywhere. The apps also become way bigger in terms of like the size of them, and there's way less apps visible on the screen at a given moment. So you can fit, as you can see, that's basically all the apps you can fit on a single page. Now in normal circumstances you could almost fit all two, well actually no, almost, you could have fit both of these pages on a single page. But as you can see, it will make text and basically everything on the device bigger, and thus make it a little bit more accessible to people that are, for instance, visually impaired. Now I'm going to disable this and go back to the normal mode. There we go. And move on to the next one, which is the screen mode. And again, this is going to be under the display, so I'm not even going to back out of here. And what this does is allow you to set a temperature to the of the display. Now by default, I believe Samsung's vivid mode is a little bit too vivid, and that is specifically visible right here. Now this is a little bit lost on the camera. For instance, specifically like the oranges and the grapefruit here look, in my opinion, a little bit atrocious. They are so saturated that they're almost burning my irises out. On the camera, like I'm saying, it is not as prominent. It's a little bit more toned down, but it's still, you can look at it and see that this is a little bit too much. And if you have the same feeling, then voila, let's drop it to natural and make it look a little bit more realistic. Now this also does add a little bit of more yellowish tint to the display. As you can see, if you disable it or enable it, it changes the entire white background a tiny bit. It does have a little bit of an effect. It almost makes it look like Apple's True Tone with the natural, which I don't really consider to be bad. And again, we can switch to another page and you can see the difference in the image right here. So as you can see, the vivid is really vivid. So yeah, I'm just gonna stick with the natural, which for me makes it feel like it is a little bit more toned down and actually realistic. So moving on to the next option, it's gonna be the game launcher. Now by default there is somewhere an app for this, which let's see if I can quickly find it. There we go, game launcher. Now I do not have any games actually installed for this to be showcased properly, but you can actually open it up. Let's agree right here. And in here, when you pull this up, you should see all the games that are on your phone, that are installed on your phone. And what you can do is basically launch them from here, and they will have specific criteria applied to them when you launch them through Game Launcher. Things like, for instance, notifications will be blocked and more performance will be dedicated to those apps. And there's a couple additional things which you can find. Also, one thing that I really like here is, I believe if you go into the settings, you can set that show game apps in Game Launcher only. There we go. So if you have any games installed, they will only be visible in here. And if you go to your basically app tray, no game will be visible in the app tray. They will only be accessible through the Game Launcher, making your device a little bit less more clean, less cluttery, and keeping it organized, which I really consider to be a really nice touch here. Now, moving into the next tweak that I want to show, it's going to be the enhanced video, or video enhancer as it's called here. And let's again go into the settings. This time around, we're going to advanced features, which are at the bottom. So somewhere, there we go, advanced features, and look for the video enhancer. There we go. So once you enable it, that's about it. That's all you need to do. You can also tap on it, as you can see, just at the text, and this will show you an image and also how it will affect that image. So as you can see, it adds a little bit more vibrancy and reduces the shadows, making objects a little bit more visible than they were before. So there's a little bit more depth and actual perception to the image that you're looking for. Well, not image, but actual video. This is specifically for the video, and that's also, as you can see, what it selects here. It's not for really photos, but it gives you an image just so you can see the difference that it will introduce to your videos. And by default, that's basically all the apps that are installed on the device. But if you have installed some different apps, they should, at least as long as they're video apps, they should be also visible here, and you can check them on or off if you wanted to, if you want the video enhancer to actually include that specific app in this setting or not. Now moving on to the next option, it's going to be the pop-up view, and this is just a different way of actually like split screening apps. So let's go into the recent, and when you see there's a settings as a recent app, it doesn't really matter what app it is as long as it's not camera. What you want to do is tap on the icon, and right here we have the two options. So we have the open split screen view and open pop-up view. Now I'm pretty sure we all are aware how the split screen view works, so I'm going to go with the pop-up one, which brings up this window. You can grab it, move it around. You can also resize it, I believe. There we go, once I actually grab it correctly. Close this one. There we go. And you can make it really small. It is fully usable window, even though it is right now a little bit too small. But you can apply this to things like YouTube, if I can actually find them. There we go. So let's go into the YouTube, open it up in pop-up view. There we go. And simply make it super small. Now videos could be playing in here without any kind of problem. So you could play basically videos on here, music, move it to the side, and do other stuff while you add it. Now, like you just seen, I pressed on the home button and it did minimize it to the app head. If you're using this for YouTube and you do click home button and it minimizes it to an app head, that means that it's going to close it or pause the video. And if you want to not actually pause the video when it's in this way, when you open it up, instead of clicking on the home button, you want to basically go back, and this will keep the app open and minimize or close the other one that you wanted to get out of. Okay. And again, you can click on it and make it into an app head, interact with it when you want it. That also works really well with messages. Now, moving on to the next option, let me just quickly close this. It's going to be the swipe down for notification panel. Now, by default, if you swipe up, you get app tray. And if you swipe down, you get, well, already notification panel, but normally you would get app tray. That's because I already have enabled this. So to actually get it looking like I do, so when you swipe down, you get the notifications instead of app tray. You want to go into the settings. From here, actually no, not settings, my bad. Let's just hold our finger on the home screen and then go into the settings right here. And this will take us automatically to the home screen settings, where you will find swipe down for notification panel, and simply make sure that this is enabled, and from there you can swipe down and get notification panel. By default, when you try to swipe down, it will basically open up app tray, and the same thing will be happening if you swipe down on it, but now you can do it, well, get the notifications instead and still have access to the app tray. Now moving on to the next option, it's going to be the gesture navigations, and just jump straight into those. It's going to be under the display, I believe. Navigation bar, there we go. And you have the swipe gestures, so simply tap on them to enable them. Voila. See what we got in more options. So in more options, we have couple different options in terms of, we have the swipe from buttons, which is kind of pointless, I would say. I'm not a biggest fan of it, but if you want it, then go right ahead. It basically substitutes the old buttons, as you can see, the ones that we just had, for these bars, which instead of pressing on them as you would normally do, you kind of swipe up on them. So you are forced to swipe from a specific location to access each one of these shortcuts. So if you want to go back, you would swipe from the right side. If you want to go into recent, you would swipe up from the left side. But with the swipe from sides and bottom, it does the gestures actually correctly, in my opinion, the way that they should be. We also have the gesture sensitivity, so we can crank it up. There we go. If you have a thick screen protection on here, tempered glass, you might want to increase this just so it's easier for you to go back to or actuate the bad gesture. But basically what happens now is you have this bar and you swipe up on it to go into recent. When you swipe up and hold, you swipe up quickly to go home. So let me just demonstrate that. Swipe quickly, home. Swipe up and hold goes to recent no matter where you are, as you can see. And then swipe from sides, bring out this arrow, which is basically a back button. And it, in my opinion, makes the navigation of the device so much nicer. It's almost basically pleasant to actually use it. Specifically the back gestures from either side are just top notch. And then moving on to the next and last option, it's gonna be the edge panel. And it is barely visible at the moment. It is way more visible if you have a different wallpaper. This one kind of masks it well, but I'm gonna quickly show you the edge panel anyway. So if you bring it up, you will have access to several different apps in here. You can edit those and add different apps if you wanted to. As you can see, you just simply add them on, but you can also open up the entire folder of apps that is accessible in anywhere you are. So you could be in some kind of app and access this panel anyway. And you also have the ability to add different panels to it. So as you can see, we have people, smart select tasks, weather, tools, reminders, clipboard. And also if we go into the Galaxy Store, yes, this is only accessible in the Galaxy Store for some odd reason. You can download even more, but unfortunately a majority of them will be paid. They're user created and they will be paid, so keep that in mind. Not all of them, but majority of the good ones. But anyway, we can tap on additional ones to add more of these. And now if we simply go out of it and pull down or pull out the panel, you can swipe through it. Let's allow. So now there we go, we have contacts, which I have none, and we have also some smart select, and again it will just cycle through it. And you can access this panel, like I said, from basically anywhere you want. Now, if you completely don't want this panel because you might not see a reason for it, you can disable it in settings under the display section. So let's go into the display and look for edge panel. There we go. And once you turn it off, as you can see, it disappears and there is no more edge panel at all. But that being said, this would conclude all the tweaks and tricks that I wanted to share. And if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.